All right, Brian Tessier here, Remax Advanced Realtors, over here in the 11-degree Pittsburgh weather. I have a special guest today on my episode number 2, one of my favorite people in the world, social media strategist, public speaker, author, presenter, Katie Lance.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me on today. I'm super excited to be here.
I appreciate it. This is a big deal for me because I never actually met Katie 7 years ago, but she changed my life whenever she came to the Remax event and spoke. This is back in the times of social media. The only option was Facebook. And I was like, oh my God, you put real estate on social media. And Katie spoke to that. And then she kept coming back. And then she created a coaching program that I signed up for. And Katie, every time I go and present out of town or in town, or young agents talk to me, I always push them your way and say, you really need to look her up and get in the program. So hopefully people do.
Absolutely. Thank you. That means a lot. I know it's funny. I can't believe, I guess we really never have met in real life. It feels like we have. But
Right. I think I was in one of the most recent R4s. I was in one of your classes, but then after your presentation, everybody mobbed you and I had to get on the next one. So we were in the same airspace.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, super cool. So what we're going to do is I made a post about a week ago. We had a bunch of people write in questions. I have wholesalers. I have my broker. I have other agents. I have a title company, a new agent that just got his license about 6 months ago. They've all posted questions. So typically Kitty and I will probably come up with some questions that we would want to present to everybody. But we probably have about 20 minutes worth of questions. So I'm going to go through them in the comment section from a week ago, and then Katie will answer them, and I'll chime in as I see fit. And if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section. If we can't get them on the live, we'll go back and get them. If you watch the rerun, Katie or I will make an effort to get back to you. So question number 1, Katie, Rick Neff, who is the closing company, one of the biggest closing companies in Pittsburgh, he has 3 questions. So question number 1 is, does Katie feel there are different social media platforms to market to different groups, both age-wise and economical sectors?
Yes, I think that's a great question. And yes and no. I think statistically, when you look at different social media networks, statistically, they skew towards different demographics. For example, Facebook right now, one of the largest demographics are people over the age of 45, like 45 to 55 right now on Facebook is one of the fastest growing demographics. Wow. In fact, I would actually probably challenge that and say I think it actually skews a little bit higher. I would probably even say 50 plus is a really fast growing network, probably because a lot of folks want to see their kids and grandkids on Facebook. It would be my guess. Instagram tends to skew a little bit younger. Instagram's big demographic right now are generally, I would say typically within like the 30 to 35 age range. It can skew a lot younger as well. And some are more female heavy. Pinterest is, something like 80% females, and whereas Twitter is typically more male oriented. So yes and no, but I always say it really comes down to who your clients are. And I'm a big believer of reaching out to your clients. And this is a great time of year to do it, where maybe you send us a quick email and say, hey, we're working on our social media strategy for 2019. We're just curious, where are you spending your time? Is it Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat? And you might be surprised. I'm surprised all the time at the people who are on certain platforms where I just wouldn't assume that at all. So a little bit of yes and no.
Well, that's interesting. I like that. That might be a good social media post I have to make, try to get everybody's opinion on that. Rick's question number 2, is it worth having a presence on Twitter if you are not already newsworthy or a celebrity, as Twitter often feels like it's talking to an empty room?
Yeah, Twitter's interesting. I personally really like Twitter. I've been on Twitter for a long time, probably close to 10 years. And where I think actually the biggest opportunity lies for agents and brokers with Twitter isn't necessarily tweeting, because I agree. I think that a lot of times it just feels like an echo chamber, but I think Twitter is a great listening platform, especially when you get into the advanced search function for Twitter. So if you go into twitter.com and you log in, there's an advanced search function where you can type in specific words like moving or, first-time home buyer, and then you can actually narrow down those searches geographically. So we're seeing some agents and brokers that are doing kind of sort of digital farming, so to speak, where they're maybe on a weekly or at least once or twice a month, they're going to Twitter, they're doing this advanced search, and they're searching for tweets within their geographic area. So, if someone's like, oh, getting relocated over to Pittsburgh, you might jump in and say, hey, congratulations. If there's anything I can help you with, let me know. Right. So that's where I think there's probably a good opportunity. And also just to find local, really relevant local stuff that's happening that you may not retweet, but maybe you'll take that link and share it over to Facebook.
I love it. I'm actually just writing that down now. Digital farming. There's two things I learned from you. I don't exactly know when it was, but one was if you're gonna be on Twitter, you got to do a consistency. It's just like if you open up a door and you go in a room and you tweet once and you yell, "Hey, home sales are up," and then you never come back. You don't have an audience.
Right.
So, and I think that's with all social media. And then I did also learn that one of your sessions about going on a Twitter and searching the hashtag moving to Pittsburgh, moving from Pittsburgh, or whatever. And I actually found a lot of good stuff and reached out to him, but I can't remember whatever happened, but anyway, that's great information. So two good points already, guys, in addition to some of the other stuff. So Rick is hogging up.
I was just going to say too, you can do that on Instagram also. There's not as the advanced search function isn't quite there on Instagram, but you could do the same thing. You could search specific cities and geographic areas. So just in terms of digital farming, you could kind of think about that on Instagram also.
Yeah, you know what? You actually can follow different areas because I recently took my boat down to Sarasota, so I set up a hashtag Sarasota, and anytime something comes up, somebody hashtags that, it comes up in my feed. So that's I don't know when they did that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Number 3, Rick, and last question from Rick, is Snapchat still relevant with the Instagram and Facebook stories?
Yeah, good question also. Again, I think probably yes or no. Part of it really depends on if your clients are there. I've kind of pulled back a little bit from Snapchat. I think it's a fun platform. I love the filters. I think it's just a super fun platform. For me personally, I find that it is getting a lot quieter because I think more people are spending time creating Instagram stories. At one point, a lot of people seem to be duplicating all their stories, where people were doing the same story on Snapchat and same story on Instagram and even Facebook stories. And it just felt really repetitive, especially if you're really active and you're following people on multiple platforms. So again, I think it comes down to reaching out to your clients, seeing if they're active there. I think especially with any kind of younger demographic, like it is a little bit stereotypical, but typically first time home buyers, if they're skewing younger, especially if they're in their 20s, most likely are going to be active on Snapchat. And that might be a great way to connect with that audience. And I'll just give one super quick tip, if you don't mind, with Snapchat. For if you do have any first time home buyers or any kind of buyers who are super active on Snapchat, one thing that I've seen done really well is on Snapchat, you can actually buy a geo filter. So I could buy a geo filter that is just for your neighborhood, that is literally just for actually your area, your house. And so I have a good friend who's a broker in Phoenix, and she works with a lot of sort of younger type clients. And when her buyers are moving into their house, she has a geo filter that runs for 6 to 8 hours the day of move-in. And so when her clients are Snapchatting and they're swiping through their filters, one of them says, "Welcome home, Jones family."
Wow.
Right? And that's, I think, a great example of like really doing smart marketing specifically where their clients are. So I love that tip. And I think it doesn't work for everybody, but if your clients are on Snapchat, it's awesome.
Right. I think that's an important point is, and another thing I learned from you is, stay in this question may come up later. Which social media platform do you go on? You just stay in your lane, stay what you're most comfortable with. Never, as many sessions as I've watched with you with Snapchat, I just could never get into it. And, buying and buyers and sellers and closings and problems and Facebook and Instagram, those are my two bread and butters. I'm moving in with LinkedIn as well. And Snapchat I couldn't see it in the future being very productive or pushing out Instagram or Facebook. So if anybody's wondering if I use Snapchat, I have my title. I've reserved it, Brian Sells Pittsburgh, but I never use it. So, all right, moving on. Suta, yes, I would like to know how few or how many hashtags should I use?
So hashtags are really important, but they're specifically important for Twitter or Instagram. You can use a hashtag on Facebook, but to be honest with you, when I see a lot of hashtags on Facebook, it just looks really spammy. Right. People don't typically use hashtags like they use them on other platforms. So if you're thinking about Instagram specifically, you can use up to 30, which sounds like a lot. But what we found is that the agents and brokers who are really growing their Instagram account at a pretty rapid rate are consistently using between 15 to 30 hashtags. And there's a great website called hashtagify.me.
Wow.
Hashtagify.me. And it's free. And you can put in any search term and it'll show you 10 additional trending hashtags that have to do with the first one you typed in. So if you're thinking, I can't think of 30 hashtags, that's ridiculous. That's a great tool to use. So, and you can put your hashtags in the captions or you can put them in the comments. Either way, it doesn't matter. I've found that doesn't matter. What does matter is how fast you do it. So the first hour on any social media platform really is kind of that magic hour. So when you post something to Instagram, you want to post your hashtags relatively quickly. It'll help get your post seen by more people versus coming back a day or two later and adding them. So as soon as possible is really key.
That's a question I'm going to throw in. I've actually heard someone else say that it's a good idea to wait a day or two and then throw in some more hashtags to make it kind of populate to the top again. What are your thoughts on that? You think do it all up front?
I think do it all up front. Yeah, that used to be a technique that worked really well, and you can kind of game the system a little bit to kind of get that boost. But with Instagram's algorithm right now, their algorithm is really, I mean, it's owned by Facebook, right?
Right.
So it's really similar in how you interact. But I think really the one of the biggest differences is those hashtags that can really give you that big boost, really in that first hour or so.
Right, that's good to know. That must have changed too. And I also remember at one point in time, I thought I thought I heard somewhere it was better to have less hashtags versus a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So I guess things are changing. All right, Mark Halovich, my broker owner, has some good questions that are related not so much agent focus, but buyer or seller focus that I love. So ask her what the number one social recommendation or tool would be for a new home buyer to focus on when starting their new home search, and how to choose a good agent on social media.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I think for any home buyer or seller, for most people, they're going to start with Google. Either they're going to start with Google or they're going to start by asking their friends and family, typically. And if they're asking their friends and family probably, will probably say, oh, call so-and-so, or I talked to so-and-so. And for most people, they're still going to kind of check them out. So they're probably going to go to Google. And so what I would recommend is, even for yourself, people always say, Google yourself. It's true. Google yourself, log out of Google yourself, and see what really comes up. Because typically what's going to come up are your LinkedIn profile, if you're on Twitter, your Facebook, your website, other sites like Zillow, Realtor.com. And you want to make sure that especially those first 5 are accurate. I'm always amazed at how many agents don't have their Realtor.com profile filled out, or just basic stuff, right? Make sure your links are up to date, your photos are up to date, things like that. I think as much as we would love to say, oh, our clients are always going to Facebook to find us, maybe not. I think it's part of their search. And I think for most buyers and sellers, if I were a buyer or seller, I would look to see, if an agent's on Facebook, when's the last time they posted? What type of content are they posting? What are their sales like? Does it feel like, the lights are on, but nobody's home? Meaning, have they set up a bunch of things, but they're not actually active? That actually tells me a lot about their online marketing and sort of savviness as an agent or broker. So, I think those are a few things that can make a big difference.
I totally get that. And buyers and sellers, social media is helping you guys buy and sell homes. I mean, you can basically interview your agent just by looking at their profile. Like if they have listings, what type of marketing are they doing on? Do they do video? Do they do drone, pink skies, orange skies, or do they just throw it up there with blurry photos? So I think social media is a great thing. Mark's second question, which is really good here. Also, we all know the social media post by realtors can be a cover. How does a consumer know if a real estate agent's persona is accurate and true to that agent? Really is that into their capabilities?
So I think that one of the best ways to see if an agent is, really reflecting the best version of themselves and being true and authentic, honestly, is seeing if they're putting out any original content, especially video content or Facebook Live content, even maybe podcast content. But I would say Facebook Live content and video content are probably 2 of the most popular types of content. And because as an agent, if you're just sharing a link to an article you read, or you're just sharing a listing, or maybe you're just sharing, even if you're sharing a review or testimonial, that's great, but I don't hear you. I don't know what you sound like. I don't know what you look like. And it's very hard, unless you are a, Academy Award winner, to kind of pull off, a great act. And so looking to see who are the agents and brokers that are putting out valuable information on a regular basis, either through video, like what we're doing right here. It's really hard for you to, kind of fake who you are, like you are who you are. So that would be one of the biggest things, is look for an agent who's putting out valuable information over the course of time. Again, either video or Facebook Live, because you'll get a really good sense of what they sound like, what they're all about, and really what their expertise is.
All right, I've been hammering it home for a while now. Video is it's been the new thing. So that does put, and I've met other agents in person that have seen my videos and said, oh, I feel like I know you because I've seen your videos. So it does give you that personal connection. Okay, Josh Maben, who is a newer agent, newer to the business. He used to sell new construction, and his question is, what does she feel are the best types of ways to schedule posts outside of data videos? I seem to only get good response on pictures of my closings with clients or polls.
So there's a couple of things in there. First of all, I think scheduling can be fine. I think sometimes scheduling gets a little bit of a bad rap. People think that people think you're just sort of setting it and forgetting it. So I don't mean, you don't want to do that. You don't want to just set it and forget it. You don't want to hit a button and just automate everything. But scheduling can definitely help. So for example, with Facebook, I'm a big believer of sitting down once a week. I've been doing this for years and years. I sit down typically every Friday afternoon and I schedule out the next 3, 4, 5 days, maybe even week of content for my Facebook business page. Now, I actually do that right on Facebook. I know there's other platforms where you could schedule content. I found that Facebook tends to penalize you if you use a tool like Hootsuite or other tools that are out there. So I typically will schedule my Facebook content just using Facebook's tool. It's free, which is great. And the other thing that makes a big difference is looking at your insights. So when you look at your insights, you can actually really see who likes your page and when are they most active on Facebook. So for us, we see a spike around 9 or 10 a.m. our time. And then we also usually see a spike in the evening or usually around dinner time, around 6 or 7. And that's just for our audience. So when we schedule content, we'll typically schedule it either that morning time or that evening time, just to kind of give it the best shot possible in the newsfeed, which I think is important. And then in terms of the actual content itself, video content is still king, like you said, Brian. Recorded video, Facebook Live, right now, those are really two of the best types of content you can put out there because it's engaging. It tends to spark a conversation. And if you listen to what Mark Zuckerberg talked about earlier this year, when he talked about changes in the news feed, he really talked about showing people content that people's friends are engaging with, but content that starts a conversation. And so this is why on your Facebook business page, if you just post a link to an article that you read on the New York Times, or you just post a link to an Inman News article, it's probably a great article, but I could almost guarantee you're not going to get a whole lot of likes, maybe 1 or 2 or 3. It's really the content that's engaging, either video or Facebook Live, that tends to get the most engagement. So there's kind of a lot in that question to unpack, but hopefully that helps a lot.
Something you touched on, and I did learn from you as well, is everybody asked me, I don't have a company do my social media posts, because Facebook, Google, and they all know that. So you've got to post organically from your phone, your iPad, your desktop, or whatever, and that's going to get you the best results. And you touched on that. I learned that from you as well. So moving on, Dana Washington, he is a local Pittsburgh investor. So he buys properties in distress and he'll fix them up or rent them out. How can social media help an investor or a wholesaler grow their business?
I think social media for an investor or wholesaler could still be really, really powerful. I almost hate to make this example, but we live in sort of this HGTV world, right? Where I think people are really fascinated with the process of investing and wholesaling, what that looks like. And so I think there's a big opportunity to create some video content around that, of what that process looks like. To be honest with you, I think that is a huge opportunity. I can't even think of anybody who's doing that. So if you embark in that, I think you have just so much opportunity to show a little bit. Maybe it's the behind the scenes, maybe it's the process. There's so many questions that go into, if you're a first time investor, or maybe this is, something that you do all the time. There's so much content that's there. And so I think it makes a big difference. I would recommend setting up a video series where once a week you've got a new 2 or 3 minute video where you're answering questions and you're providing really great content, and then distribute that on Facebook. I would upload that right into my Facebook business page. I would probably also put it over on YouTube. I'd make sure I'd have an active YouTube channel, because YouTube can help tremendously in terms of getting found. YouTube's owned by Google. And I would leverage it that way. And then I'd run ads against those videos to potential investors. So I think there's a big opportunity there.
That's great. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking, wow, I have never seen anybody do that. Like, a lot of these investors I know are sending out mailers or farming areas with mailers trying to get distressed properties and paying for stuff. And you could just do it on social media. You might have a little expense with a video if you hired somebody to do it, but maybe show it how it can help the consumer get out of debt if they sell the property to you, how the process actually works at a closing. I mean, it's unlimited for Dana. Dana, you could be a pioneer if you take some of Katie's advice and maybe hook up with her.
Yes, I agree, Dana. No pressure, but
all right. Daniel Carrazzo's down in Florida, one of my Instagram buddies. Question number 1 is, what is the appropriate balance percentage on different types of content, personal and business? And if you can give some examples, and what should we be posting on our Instagram page specifically? but I'd like to know for personal Facebook page as well as business page, 100%. Not exactly sure I understand the whole question. I think he's looking for percentage there.
Sure, sure. So with Instagram, there's a couple things there. First of all, you may have a personal account, you may have a business account, or you may have both. For a lot of agents and brokers, it's a little bit challenging to get to navigate between the two. And I actually made the decision earlier this year just to have one. So I have a business account. I made the intentional decision to change my personal account from a personal account to a business account. And my content, I would say, is about 50-50. If you look at my account on Instagram, it's about 50% business, the other 50% personal. And for me personally, the reason why I did that, I just found that, I just like an agent or broker, we're wearing many hats, right? So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm a speaker. And it doesn't really shut off, right? I don't really put things in compartments in my life. And so for Instagram specifically, especially with Instagram stories, I know Brian, you and I follow each other on Instagram stories. My Instagram stories is like always this hodgepodge of Christmas decorating, and then I've got a new video, and it's like my life is this intertwined thing, which I think for a lot of people, especially as agents or brokers or business owners, that's how it is. So if you are like me and you have just one account, then I would say probably 50-50 personal and business. That's fine. You might even skew more towards business. In fact, there's some weeks where I think my Instagram is probably more like 70% business, 30% personal, and that's fine. I like with a business account that I can do advertising quickly and easily. There's big opportunities on advertising, especially in Instagram stories right now, the Instagram news feed, of course. You've got Instagram analytics, which is really great. The flip side of that, if you do choose to have two separate accounts, there's some people who just want a private, personal Instagram account just for their dear friends and family. That's totally fine. That's probably going to be a private account. It's probably going to be 100% personal because that's what it's for. Whereas if you have a separate business account, that might be more 90% business, maybe a little bit personal here and there, but really, 80 to 90% business. So long answer to your question, but part of it kind of depends on your personality and how you want to navigate both of those effectively.
Right, and it kind of goes into his second question. He goes, I live an active and adventurous life. However, I don't show much of it at all in the form of posts and barely in stories either. And I know I've gotten on him before. He lives in Siesta Key. I mean, it's beautiful sunsets, beautiful sunrises every day. I'm like, those are my most viewed posts or sunrises and sunsets. Just get out there and do it. So his second question is, how is this hurting me or benefiting me? And that is not by not posting much.
Yeah, it is valuable, I think, to post things that are important to you, right? If you love to be in the outdoors, beautiful sunsets and sunrises, agreed with you. Every time I post a sunset or sunrise, it's like, I don't know, tons of likes, tons of engagement. So I think you also want to have some kind of internal personal boundaries. I think some people don't share things personally because it's just their time, right? It's like their space. And I certainly feel that as a mom, I'm tempted to share a ton about my kids, and I do, but there's also a lot that I intentionally don't share also. So I think part of it is kind of taking a step back and thinking about, okay, I want to share a little bit more personally. What am I most comfortable with? What does that look like? And then when you're doing those things, you start to get in the mindset of, oh, wait, I'm doing this hike. I'm going to make sure I take a quick picture. And maybe you don't post it right then. You post it back when you get home, and that's fine too. I do a lot of that too, by the way. A lot of times I want to be in the moment. So I'm not necessarily sharing right then, but I'll take a quick photo, take a video, whatever, and I'll share it later when I get home.
Right, that's a great idea. And I always have a filter on my brain. I'll look at something and I'll be like, oh, I should share that. And I'm like, well, let's just sit there for a couple minutes and see if that's a good idea. And Dan, I mean, in my opinion is, try something for a week. Try doing sunrises in your stories for a week and see if your viewership increases. That's how my stories started growing more so than my actual Instagram feed, is because I posted regular decent stuff in there. Moving on. Good.
Oh, last thing I was just going to say. Yep. With any kind of location, like especially sunsets and sunrises, post a geolocation.
Right.
And you can and also post a hashtag, post, sunset views or sunsets. Adding the geolocation and a hashtag to a post like that is going to drive more people to your Instagram story, and it'll just help to kind of build your audience there.
Absolutely. That ties into what I said earlier. Whenever I moved my boat down to Sarasota, I follow the hashtag Sarasota. So if Dan would do that and hashtag Sarasota, I'd see every post he does with that.
Yep.
Okay, Ariel Harat posted in the comment section during our live questionnaire, please ask Katie if it will be better to focus on one or two social media platforms or all of them at the same time. You kind of touched on it, but maybe he didn't quite hear it if you want to review.
Well, I think for most people, ideally, you pick one or two that really work for you. I always say pick the ones that, first of all, your clients are on. So again, kind of going back to maybe doing a quick poll, maybe you're posting on Facebook or you're sending a quick email asking people where they're at. And then secondly, where do you like to be? I think that's important too. You know, for some people, they've tried Snapchat and they're like, I just don't get it. It's annoying and I don't want to be on it. Then don't be on it. That's okay, right? I'm giving you permission. You don't have to be everywhere. So pick one or two and really go all in. And if Facebook is the place for you, then go all in. Do Facebook stories, do Facebook Messenger, run Facebook ads, create a Facebook group. There's so much you can do just with Facebook. Same thing with Instagram. If you want to go all in with Instagram, like go all in. Instagram TV, Instagram Live, Instagram Story. Like it's crazy. So pick one or two, but really challenge yourself and go, well, am I really going all in? And then put yourself out there. There's lots of opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, you kind of have to like doing it. You have to kind of want to do it. So if you're forcing yourself to do Facebook and Instagram, you're probably going to stink at both. So you're better off just focusing on one and getting some good results. Great question, Ariel. Thank you very much for that. Ed Stulak, I don't know if you know him. He's a huge Instagram New Jersey realtor. I just met him at the New Jersey conference. He's like 39,000 followers, a millennial, and he's very good. So his question is, many realtors find themselves to be excessively overoccupied with work, family, events, etc., and tend to say that they don't have time to be on social media. If that is the case, what's one of your favorite automation scheduling tools that would work you would recommend for a realtor who doesn't have time to be on social media?
I have found that the person that says they don't have time because they don't have a system in place. And so
I like that.
A little bit of real talk there, but that's really what it comes down to, because we are all busy. We all have, you know, like I said, I'm happily married. I've got 2 kids. I run a business. Like we all have things that we do. And we all have 24 hours in the day. So I totally get the time issue, but having a system, when you have a system, it just makes it part of your day. Just like you have a system for how you take on a listing, a system for how you work with buyers or sellers, you probably have a system for a lot of parts of your business, especially if you're a top producing agent. You'll quickly realize in this business that if you don't systemize certain things, that you're just going to be running around and working 24 hours a day, and nobody wants to do that if you want to have any quality of life. So I would recommend for the agent or broker who feels that they don't have time, it starts with, I think, time blocking your schedule, giving yourself some time on your schedule. Maybe it's 15 minutes every morning as you're drinking your cup of coffee, just to start, and then start to kind of schedule out chunks of time. I always recommend once a week, schedule out an hour, at least an hour, where you can schedule some of your content, create some of your content, time block that schedule. And then probably once a month, schedule out a few hours where you can look at those analytics. I like to sit down once a month and batch create a lot of my content. I feel like if I'm going to do my hair and makeup and sit down and do one video, I might as well do 5 in one sitting.
Yeah.
And so you start to get into a system, and that makes a big, big difference. In terms of any sort of automated tools, like I said, I think you want to be really careful in terms of automation. I don't think there's anything wrong in scheduling some of your content through Facebook. I schedule some of my Instagram content. I use a great free tool called later.com. And later.com is awesome. I schedule, write it down. It's a great one to write down. There's a desktop version. There's a version for your phone. So again, nothing wrong with kind of thinking ahead and scheduling some of that content, but start with time blocking, start by getting a system together. That's really kind of first and foremost. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with you on that. Let's get away from the whole automation. I mean, if you want to use the Facebook automation like I do as well, that's great. But and I'm gonna agree with you. Let's challenge those 8 realtors, Ed, that say they don't have time. Listen, it's part of your job. There's no longer go to the office and do real estate stuff and then social media later. It's part of your job. If you're gonna sit down and organize just listed cards or an ad in the paper, that's part of your job. That's part of the stuff you do. So you would schedule your social media at the same time. I mean, I know I schedule mine a week out on Facebook, like Katie was saying, and it maybe takes me a half an hour to an hour. It depends if I put my phone off and get away from my email and I can just focus on it. 25 minutes, and it's part of my 40-hour work week. It's part of my job. So I don't really think there is a good automation answer.
Yeah, it just comes down to a system. That's what it is. I'll just give one last example here. For us, we have a new video that comes out every single Wednesday. Well, we have a checklist of everything that happens with that video, right? It's 20 or 30 things that happen every single week with that video. And because it's systemized, it happens without fail, and it just becomes part of our business. And you have to keep in mind the business reason for doing this. It's not just to hang out on Facebook and watch cat videos and,
Right.
talk about politics. Like, it's about connecting with your clients intentionally, wishing them happy birthday, looking for moments of opportunity to connect, to take the online offline, to pick up the phone because of something maybe you saw on Facebook. And it's also an opportunity to generate leads and new business. There are valid business reasons behind it. And if you feel like you're spinning your wheels on social media and just, you're on there, but you're not really getting any business, I just would challenge anyone listening to really think about, have you created a system for it? Have you treated it, like you said, Brian, as an important part of your 40-hour work week, as part of your business? And if you haven't, now is a great time to think about that.
Right. And it's my favorite thing. It's free.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, unless you're running ads, but it's free.
Right.
I mean, you can make a lot of money just by connecting with your clients.
Yep.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here. I have 3 more questions from Alexia Hill. She's a second-year agent in my office, has 3 good ones. So number 1, what type of posts generate the most engagement or clicks? And do people prefer to see what you're actually doing in real estate, like your listings and closing, et cetera, or do they prefer content that is informative?
So for posts that are typically get the most engagement, it's typically video content or Facebook Live content, something that's moving, right? If you think about, especially with Facebook, a lot of us were just sitting there, we're holding our phone and we're swiping. So you've got to create something that's thumb stopping in the newsfeed. And so something that moves is going to typically catch their attention. That's typically going to be your best type of content. As I mentioned earlier, original content is best. So content that's in your voice, because as much as I could find 10,000 videos on how to buy a house, nobody's going to say it how you're going to say it. Nobody's going to have your experience like you're going to have. So that original content is really key. In terms of what do people care as far as what they're seeing, I think people like to see a little bit of both. I think, again, we live in sort of this HGTV world. People like to see houses. They like to see like that cool granite backsplash and those, that cool crown molding and that pool in the backyard. I think people like to see some of that stuff. But I also think having a balance of the real estate part of it, as well as sharing tips and valuable knowledge. There's so many questions that people have that, frankly, a lot of people are embarrassed to ask because they think, oh my gosh, everybody should know this. And you know it because you've been in the business, but a lot of people don't know it. So having that balance, I think, is key.
You hit the nail on the head. And I tell other realtors that whenever they ask about content, I'm like, you know all this stuff, but most people in the world, they don't know it. So go out there and post this stuff. And let's see, I'll answer the question with one word: video.
Mm-hmm.
Video. All right, number 2, is one platform more successful than another? Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, or should we focus on different types of content? I think we kind of already answered that multiple times. It's, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. Try one for a while, go all in, and see if you can get some results.
Yep.
And number 3, I keep rating video as the most popular medium right now. Makes sense, but I often feel like I don't know what to create a video for or about, or feel the content house is not exciting enough. Any ideas for a video? Alternative ideas if you're not 100% comfortable with yourself in front of the video. I read people prefer stories rather than testimonials. What would you say is correct?
So as far as what to say on video, that's probably the biggest thing that I think holds people back a lot. Part of it is we don't like how we look or how we sound, and then we're not even sure what to say, and then we definitely don't do video then. So what I would recommend, I always have a notebook and pen by my computer. I love everything online technology, but I still love a notepad. And so what I do is anytime I get asked a question more than once, I write it down. So when you're on the phone with a client, you get an email from a lead, and you will see these patterns where people are generally asking you the same things over and over again. You write it down. And you start making a list of the things that people ask you. You could even look in your sent email to get some inspiration for what people are asking you when it comes to real estate, buying or selling, things about the community. And that's a great place to start. So start by brainstorming different questions that people ask you all the time. And if you sit down and like you said, Brian, put your phone aside, close off your email, you could probably sit down and think of 20 or 30 topics or questions that people ask you all the time. So that would be a great place to start. And the other thing I would say with video is, anybody who starts with video, the first few videos that you do are not going to be that great, I promise. But it gets easier. The more you do it, the easier it gets. I don't know if I'm ever totally comfortable being on camera. I just know I'm at the point where I don't really care because I know it works, And so you just got to get to that point, and the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Right. And something we haven't talked about that I did learn from you is consistency. You have to I post on Facebook 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every day, and except on weekends I go a little earlier. And I used to post once a day on Instagram, but now my stories have become so popular, I don't have much to post on my actual feed. So I'm posting every so many days instead of every day on that, and that seems to be working out well. But anytime anybody asks you a question that you have to answer as a realtor twice, you should make a video about it. Post it on LinkedIn, post it on Instagram. Try to keep it 1 minute or under. Post it on YouTube, post it on Facebook.
Yeah. And I love some of the videos you've been doing, Brian. You've been doing a lot just in your car. You're parked, obviously. And you've just been doing these quick videos, which I love. First of all, videos in your car are great. You've got good lighting, right? Yeah. And as a realtor, you're in the car a lot. So I have found that a lot of agents do this. You do this really well. You're in between appointments and you're like, hey, I just had a meeting with so-and-so, or just, had a, whatever it might be. And you're sharing a great tip. You don't necessarily have to, give away the farm. You don't have to, betray anyone's confidentiality or anything like that, but you can, sort of be inspired to say, you know what, this is a common thing that I'm going to share that could help somebody else.
All right. I like to look behind the scenes. I mean, that's what reality TV is. It's showing us behind the scenes. Some of it's scripted, some of it's not, but I like to see behind the scenes when people have problems, how they overcome things. I don't want to see that polished tool. So I like to show people what's going on, how I'm screwing up and overcoming it or what we've done that works well. So we took longer than expected, but I think we got a lot of good stuff out.
There were so many good questions. You had a ton of great questions. So Thank you, everybody who asked questions.
Yep. So guys, Katie's answered all these questions a million times before. You just have to sign up for her newsletter or go to her YouTube channel, and all these questions have been answered. This is nothing revolutionary. She's probably really polished and answering all these questions. So I can't tell you enough. Follow Katie Lance. Thanks to everybody who posted questions. If you're watching the rerun, post them. I'll make sure she sees them, and I'll try to answer them as well. Katie, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.